Okay, I think we're close enough to 7 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So, may have a roll call. I think we have everyone here tonight. Hi, Sandy. Can you hear me? Okay, good. I'm working on it. Yep. Okay. Um, they have motion to accept the agenda. Motion by Tom,
Second.
Can I,
by Leah.
it's been seconded. I'd like to make a friendly correction. Under the reminder section, it says next regular meeting, November 21st. That's actually today. That should be December 19th.
Ah, okay. Cut and paste issue. All right, so noted. Thank you, Cliff. Did all in favor say aye?
Like, we'd have to motion as amended.
Motion as amended.
Yes, you need a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Oh, okay. A motion to accept the agenda as amended.
There's
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mike, I'm sorry, there's a couple of corrections on the minutes from last month.
Yeah, I just was getting ready to.
Oh, you're not ready for that?
Haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, sorry.
Approval of the meeting minutes from October 17th. I wasn't here, so I can't offer any input. What would you like to correct?
Well, I was here, but my name was left off of members present.
Okay.
And then down under motion to approve minutes for August 29th, Tom's last name was spelt wrong. Only two I've caught.
Okay. Anything else with the meeting minutes? Pardon? No, she just.
Oh, right. At the very end,
Oh,
I'll change my name. At the very end.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, whoever gets that last is second.
I think you took over for the person who was secretary. Yeah, we haven't done new election for new positions. That usually happens in January.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the amended minutes? Motion by Tom.
Second.
Second by Cliff or Sandy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Okay. Like to open it up for public comment for anything that's not on the agenda tonight. If anyone's got questions or comments. Okay, we're gonna close public comment and we're gonna move on to new business. This new business tonight is the combined preliminary and final site plan application PFS PA 24-001 to allow improvements to the property of 18651 West Old US 12, should say there. For the future towing business and impoundment yard use. This project includes but not limited to a 4,230 square foot, 1.5 story building, 7 parking places, and a secured storage yard with 46 parking spaces, signing, lighting, and landscaping. I believe is there anything you'd like to kind of walk us through the project again and give us an update? As far as changes in that?
So how do you want me to, do you want the applicant to,
Whatever most efficient for time. Do you want to go through it first?
you want me to just lay it out very quickly, staff report? And
Yeah,
then
well,
have the applicant
That's fine.
speak? We can do it that way, and then everybody that's watching will know what we're talking about, and then Ted can go up there.
Okay.
give you his little, you know. So you guys all have read my staff report, I'm sure, and looked at it, so I'm not going to go into great detail on this. What's in front of you tonight is the project history. So back in May of 2024, the planning commission approved the special use permit for the tow yard at this site, for a tow yard use at this site with conditions. Those conditions have been laid out in your staff report, and then the applicant has been working to submit for site plan review, and they've chosen to do preliminary and final site plan review at the same time, so combined, which is allowed in your code. My staff report then goes through the application materials requirements of your code and shows that the applicant has submitted the required application materials. And then it talks about the discretionary standards for preliminary and final site plan review, and goes through those discretionary standards. And each standard would be in bold, followed by staff comment on the standard, on that standard. So, and that's done for both preliminary and final site plan review. During this process, also, the engineer has reviewed the project plans, and attached to your staff report as Exhibit B was the engineering comments. The latest comments from the engineer had, I believe, 4 additional items that still needed to be addressed. And you could either make those exact things condition of approval, or I have a standard condition of approval that I put into, you'll see this in almost all of the site plan review staff reports, that just says that the applicant has to meet state, federal, and local requirements prior to pulling a permit on for the project. So prior to that permit being issued, they would need to comply with Adam, who is our engineer's regulations or requirements of D. Let me see which D that is for you. D3, Exhibit D3 is the November 14th, 2024 outstanding items by the engineer, which are, there were 4 of them. The minimum grade should be 1% of the parking lot with aggregate surfaces. The storage lot should be well drained. Show mulch blanket where slopes exceed 1 to 3 for soil erosion measures. Add mulch blanket detail to sheet 10. Concrete pad for dumpster enclosures should be 6 inches per section 13.04, revised in solid waste enclosure details. So those were the 4 additional requirements that the engineer had. I have laid out an example approval and an example denial motion for you. My example approval motion has 6 suggested conditions of approval. One of those conditions would be the all required federal, state, and local reviews and approvals will be required prior to the issuance of a building permit, including Washtenaw County Road Commission, Washtenaw County Environmental Health, Township Engineering Consultant, Chelsea Area Fire Authority, Chelsea Area Construction Agency. You've also, in that Exhibit D, you've seen the Chelsea Area Construction Agency review. They were okay with the plan. You've also seen EC3, which is our environmental consultant review of the plan. The latest review from EC3
Came yesterday, right?
came yesterday.
Yeah.
And was at your dais tonight. And it talks, so there was some email between the applicant and him about the spill diapers. And he talks about the spill diapers, and then he just reiterates his original best practices from his May 2024 report. I'll give this to the applicant. But I don't know. Oh, you guys got it. Somebody gave it to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Scott, in your example motion that you prepared, is the Midwestern Consulting 4 points included?
it would be included under the item 2, because that would be required prior to building permit. But if you wanted to put a motion in there that specifically talks about the November 14th items, you could do that also. So, like I said, under exhibit or under condition 2 of my suggested conditions, is all required federal, state, and local reviews and approvals will be required prior to issuance of a building permit, including but not limited to Washtenaw County Road Commission, Washtenaw County Environmental Health, the Township Engineering Consultant. That's the one that we're talking about.
All right.
Chelsea Area Fire Authority and Chelsea Construction.
Okay.
So, but you could create that to have a specific, comment to the November 14th, report. However, if you do recommend some other conditions, Adam might have to review a different plan. So those, obviously, those on November 14th were based on exactly what's on these plans in front of you tonight. If we, let's for say, require the rear storage area to be paved, Adam would need to re-review that plan to make sure that the engineering is complete.
Okay.
Adam is the name of the engineer that we use.
All right. Anything else, Scott, from your
I
perspective?
think my staff report pretty much stands alone. Like I said, it is pretty long, but hopefully you've read it all and you can see all the different conditions that we have to look at. It talks originally about just regular requirements of the code, such as what the landscape requirements are, what the lighting requirements are, what all of those requirements, which this project meets all the basic non-discretionary requirements of the code. And then there's the site plan regulations that are more discretionary in nature, and it talks a little bit about each of these.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add at this point before we?
Scott, there's somebody trying to get in the Zoom, looks like.
I'll hear me. Ted Hirsch with Midwestern Consulting. But I'll start off by going into much detail about the things that we added or changed with the project, other than just. How's that? Okay. So yeah, I'll just restate that. Ted Hirsch with Midwestern Consulting, civil engineer for the project. And I don't know that I want to go into too much detail about every little change that we made. Like Scott mentioned, we worked with EC3, we worked with the engineer, kind of going back and forth to make sure that we were trying to address all of the conditions, concerns, meet all the regulations and everything. So I think what may be more effective is to hear from the planning commission what questions you might have about how we address certain things, or if there's lingering questions, and we're more than happy to kind of discuss those things. So I'll just stay up here and we'll field questions if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll start. EC3 talked about applying the absorbent diapers to vehicles that are either leaking or have the potential to leak. How frequently in the industry do folks inspect for leaks? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So I think we're at the forefront. I don't know of other towers that are doing this. I recently got on the board of the State Towing Association again for a second time. I was a while ago, but I got off. And so I know a lot of towers across the state. There's conversation a little bit, but we're kind of paving away a little bit. I don't know any personally that are applying them. We've been playing with them at my Manchester yard. It seems pretty simple. It seems like a good idea. I did notify the sheriff's department that does the contract for the towing, that I sure hope in the February contract that we might be able to add that fee in for the cost of the diaper. And it's not significant. It's, $30, $40 for the cost of it. So you mentioned inspection, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're one of the first putting it down. We're playing with it. So far, we're doing daily inspections, something that leaks. We haven't had many that got one or two maybe out of 20 that I've done that have gotten saturated. In our plan, we have someone check it once a day. There's a logbook and we initial it. We're going to learn as we go here, but I think we got the bases covered. We got Safety Clean coming to pick up the barrel when it gets full. EC3 and us, we had some conversation about which pad was better. And I asked them, I said, here's two that my industry recommended. What do you think? He said, I like this one better than this one. So I said, okay. Who might argue with him?
What's the typical lifespan on those products?
They're infant. They're just absorbent pads. They stay dry. They're wrapped up until you apply them.
So they can't get oversaturated and leak or anything like that?
They can get oversaturated. The one he wants is 8 gallons. And so far, the only thing they can tell me is that when you see the liquid on top, it's saturated. So that's why we look once a day. But then also we got the backup plan. It's on a cement surface with a trench drain and oil water separator. So I feel like we did a pretty good job. And especially what I know of peers in my industry. Brewers do have an oil water separator for their lot, no diapers, and their lot's an old lot. It was 84 lumber that's on State Street. So they got something.
And I know this time frame can vary quite drastically, but what's an average time frame a vehicle stays on your property?
If that was in the May report, I sure didn't see it. I just saw it tonight. I did go back. Him and I did a study of 23, I believe it was. I wasn't sure whether it was this year or last year that I chose. In the winter months, and I'd have to dig it up so I could be exact. The average stay in the winter months, I think I did it in quarters, 4 quarters. And so either I did last year 4 of them or I did this year 3 of them. And in the winter, it was 7 days was the average. In the summer, it was 5. However, I think the maximum might have been 40, 41. I had one car that did that. A lot of them left the next day. You know how numbers are.
Sure, it's an average, right?
Yeah, how do you want to do it? I choose the average. I like the average. But I looked at that one tonight. That is to say that I won't have one there 30 days is tough. I said, I think the one that stayed there was 41. I think if I'm pretty good at recalling numbers, names and faces, I'm not good, but numbers I am, was 41. So we might conversate that a little bit tonight.
Appreciate it.
In regards to the diapers or the review, who audits the logs? To make sure it's actually happening, you know, that someone's checking.
We enrolled in, well, yeah, pollution prevention.
Okay,
They said, you're not required to. And first I went through a list of questions, do you store batteries there? No. Do you store fuel there? No. So I knew where she was going. I said, do you want me to? That way you'll come inspect me? Cause I would think you all and my insurance and whatever comes down the line would like some reassurance that we're running a clean operation. So they said, yeah, if you want to, if you will enroll, they will do an annual inspection of the property.
okay, and will they produce a report for that, do you know?
I think we keep a copy of when they've been out and they went through it and it's signed and dated. I think we keep a copy of it at our office. That's about it.
Is it possible to get a copy of that sent to the planning commission every year?
Conditions of approval of the special permit.
Every 2 years?
The applicant shall submit a biannual report on the safety measures for evolving transportation technologies. So we can have them put in the log books, because the log thing was a requirement of pollution prevention.
Correct.
So you can just have them.
Can we add that in then for the conditions? Okay,
And I think some of that was obviously the EV industry. Where's that going? What are we gonna be doing in 2 years?
Right. On the grading plan over there, it shows gravel. Is that correct? In that current plan, is that still showing gravel, right? And the letter from the ECS is suggesting that we concrete the whole thing.
So, and I don't know if you have the latest one, from EC3. Just taking a look at it tonight for the first time, our interpretation, kind of since the beginning, was that we were going to be providing, this kind of bank of parking or storage spaces along the east, like we do, where there's designated concrete area for the storage of those, like potentially leaking.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with the gravel. My preference is the whole thing is concreted. Honestly, we've all spent thousands of dollars personally on this water tower, and I'm worried about protecting it. So one of the conditions of approval that I would suggest is that the entire storage lot is concrete. I mean, I personally have got almost $10,000 in tax bills that I've personally paid towards that water tower. And I'm sure if I went around the table here, there's a lot of us have got thousands of dollars invested in it. And I'm not interested in taking any sort of risk with it. And if you look at the information provided by here, you're also in a wellhead protection zone. To minimize risk, food, it's right in here where needs to be concreted. Tom, any thoughts on that? You spent a lot of money in water tower too, right? Clifford, your thoughts?
I don't see it as one of necessarily EC3's specific conditions. So I would be helpful to chat a little more about that.
This says to minimize refuel following should be adhered to, right? Store damaged vehicles on pavement with curbing, right? And the plan doesn't really say where disabled vehicles are, and that could be anywhere on the property. So
I think your concern is that we won't be able to I mean, who's going to be out there watching where they're putting the damaged vehicles if it's not all paved?
Correct.
So I think that's where your concern comes, and maybe they could address that concern.
I mean, other than I got a financial vested interest in keeping the property clean also, trust me. I think everything we've done, it has hopefully shown, but it's, proof's in the pudding, I get you. But it's a big investment for me. I don't want to contaminate a piece of land nor the issues that may go along with.
I can't, personally, I can't support not concreting the whole thing.
I know a couple of years ago, I was in a lot down in Detroit and I wondered as we're developing this, and I took a picture of it. I don't have it because it was 2-3 years ago with all the cracks. And I thought, in case someone wants to, are we getting a false sense of security here, thinking that it's going to stop it? And I'm not trying to be argumentative. Don't take it that way. I'm really not. But cement cracks and the fluid's going to go down.
Diapers leak and the fluids go down, the cement will help, right? So
I don't know the impact.
the township residents have millions of dollars we've paid for that water tower. And that part of our interest is to protect the overall interest of the township residents too, and our financial investment.
I didn't get that out of EC3 paving the entire lot. I got, the initial one was that I don't see them.
Again, it's not in the EC3 report. It's more of a concern of the planning commissioners that they can't control where you're going to park the cars. EC3 says that you have to park, they want best practices is to park a damaged car on a paved area with curbing. I think everybody up here would feel safer. They wouldn't have to go out there and check all the time if your entire area where you parked cars was paved, so that they weren't always checking. So yes, you're correct. You both are sort of correct.
Okay.
You're correct that EC3 doesn't state it specifically, but their concern is who's going to go out there every time there's a damaged car and make sure that the damaged car is on the paved area and not on the gravel area.
Yeah.
Right.
They're basically telling us we're supposed to EC3 or as recommended that Silver Township adopt the best management practice to minimize risk of this. So in some ways, they're on the fence too.
Yeah, they have best management practices that they would believe would make it the safest. It's not something that is 100% required, but because this is in a wellhead protection area, it might be safer to use those best practices than if this was somewhere that wasn't in a wellhead protection area. So, but yes, you are correct also, Tom, that's just best practices. They're suggesting those. They're not requiring that you put those in place. And then you have their requirement that the cars that are damaged beyond pavement, Ted and Mr. Kearns proposed an area that is paved and with a drain where they would put all the damaged cars. So they are meeting that best practice. However, there's concern by some of your other planning commissioners that they can't enforce that parking location with a damaged car. So they're worried because you have an environmentally sensitive area with a tow yard. How can we make the best project so that we're safeguarding a few additional things? So there's a lot of things up in the air, and that's what you guys as planning commissioners need to determine tonight, what you feel is appropriate for this use in that location. So with the site plans. So we have what they proposed. We have what the best practices are, and then we have what you think is appropriate. And all those can move through at tonight's meeting, because let's say you wanted to have them pave the entire area, you would just approve that with a condition, And then all the engineering we could look at through before the permit stage. So you wouldn't have to have it come back to another meeting of the planning commission.
So Tom, in regards to conditions, would you support that or not?
I think it could be cemented
I do too.
to protect what we have.
Correct.
I know it's gonna be added expense and everything. But being where it's at. I think it should be cemented.
I do too. Matt, what's your thought? You spent a lot on the water tower too, right?
Regardless, whatever's approved by the state, well, I mean, as far as any aquifer is susceptible to any damage to the, through leakage.
Right.
Whether it's in your backyard, in their back of their property.
Yep.
Yeah, it's in a wellhead area, close to the water tower, the well is, how deep is the well? 300 feet.
Don't know.
The chances of that, I mean, them wanting to, having the area for the most dangerous cars is there in the plan. I don't think they're gonna pull a car and put it in the back that's leaking on the gravel, like you
Mhm.
said, it's his property, he's gonna need to, in his best interest, protect the ground that he's got. Same as my property on the farm, I'm not gonna park a leaking tractor out in the back and let it leak all over the property.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
one
he's
of the
gonna.
things, you have people that are working for you and they.
Well,
Sometimes.
exactly.
Right.
Certainly, but, I mean, if you have damaged equipment, you gotta make sure it's not
Yeah.
endangering the environment.
No, understand, but
They have the engineered area
yeah.
in the plan. If they have overflow or they have vehicles that are not leaking, that can be, simple, fender bender damage, nothing's leaking, they can park it on the gravel. They have an extraordinary amount of expense in this project to start
Mhm.
off. You go ahead and require them to pave the whole entire property.
Mhm.
Pretty much. It's an ultra extravagant expense.
Yeah, but how much,
Yeah, yeah,
but
but,
protecting the water
I mean,
tower
they
is
still
a
have-
much more expensive proposition for the township
But they're
residents
not going
than
to park a
concrete.
vehicle out on the gravel.
You can't
If-
assume that. I can't anyways.
They only, like you said, how many vehicles do they have, are they gonna have on the property? They're not gonna have the whole property covered with vehicles because it's in and out. But it's the nature of the business. Cars come in, cars are going out.
Okay, so you're okay with
I'm
leaving the
okay
current
with the way
plan?
they have it.
Okay,
They have a drainage plan, they have a area for drainage, they have a oil separator, engineered. If any spill off of the concrete goes in there, it's separated, it's contained. It's gone through the engineering and had everything in order.
okay.
I don't think there's a chance. I mean, there's a very, very, very minimal chance that they're gonna have spillage that's gonna go into the ground. Like
But-
you're saying, yes, they could park something and all of a sudden, hey, something's leaking.
Yeah, okay.
on the
No,
property.
that's
I
fine.
mean,
That's your
you know,
opinion.
But every other year, they're gonna have a report
Yeah.
on the property, correct? If they show that they had a vehicle out on the gravel leaking, it's gonna come up in the report every other year.
Not necessarily.
Not
How
necessarily?
would, no, how would they know that?
It's
Clifford,
not-
your
it's not-
thoughts?
It's not a 200-gallon oil barrel tank.
I think there's a bit of a safeguard in some of the conditions Scott put in his staff report about all required state, federal, and local reviews. I mean, if there's something truly problematic, one of these agencies, Washington County Environmental Health, they're going to step in and make them correct it before they get final approval. So I think there's a bit of a safeguard there.
Yeah, but
There are no state or federal requirements for them to pave.
it's really the responsibility of the local government to determine how the water protection supply. It's no one else is going to step in and do it for us. Leah, your thoughts?
With what Matt covered pretty much what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Thinking. And I think Mr. Kern's a reputable owner. He's been in business for a number of years. And I don't think he's gonna,
Yeah, but it's, the question is if he's not there and other things happen or he sells it and someone else comes in down the road too, right? And you've always got those risks, right? In any case,
I think he's got reputable employees, I'm sure. And they're,
yeah, it's other people down the road though. Say he sells the business, right? Then what happens?
I still have to go by the guidelines, have them report every year.
Well, and you guys don't have to agree. So, you know, you can create a condition of approval and make a motion. If that condition doesn't work, then, you know, make another motion of approval without that condition and see if it goes through. So.
I don't know how.
I
I don't mean to
Go ahead,
interrupt.
Sandy, go ahead.
agree with Nat. But yeah,
Okay.
be a big expense.
yeah, I think they've covered everything that's possible to cover. We cannot predict what's going to happen in the future, and we can't make a decision right now on what might happen in 20 years. And I agree, you know, cement does break up, so it's not, that's a false sense of security. I think the plan has gotten a lot of consideration. They've done it. Certainly, I'm not an architect, but it looks to me like they've covered as many bases as is humanly possible.
And over time, cement cracks.
Yeah, it does. And diapers leak.
They're not gonna have them leaking.
Does this still have to go to the township board for approval after we're done?
I do not believe so.
Don't believe
You
so.
guys are the final entity. Didn't I write what the process was?
So we're kind of in the middle on this. I don't know where you're at, Cliff.
Yeah, I think with, yeah, I think a vote. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you mind if Mr. Kearns just makes one more comment before you vote?
Sure.
It could be controversial. I'm not here to argue, so please don't take it that way. One of the things when we first started getting into this, I really wasn't, like I said, none of my peers are doing what we're doing. So I was reluctant to do the trench drain and the oil recycler and the separator and all that. I said, in all my years of towing, it's my honest opinion. I'm not trying to sway anybody, but the wrecks I've done along I-94, that's where 80-90% of the fluids are. And they run off the freeway. We catch what we can with oil dry, but this backs up to the freeway. You know, there's a potential for a lot of it to be down in that ditch, I feel. But again, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just pointing out that is true. You know, that semi crash we had up at 94 and 52 a couple of years ago, the amount of fluid that was on the freeway there. And I guarantee it didn't all get picked up. You know, we did the best we can, but some of it beats us to the ditch line. So how long has 94 been there? It's had a lot of spills on it. And thank you. I don't mean to be argumentative. I'm just trying to, a different viewpoint.
Okay. And the next question I had was on the landscaping plan, for the trees. Can we put those to all evergreens, ones that are on the vinyl fence side?
Yeah, so I think there was some maples along, you're talking about the west property line?
Yeah, one next to the property that's over there to currently.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'd have to go back and check with our landscape architect on that one, on whether that species selection was to stay in line with ordinance requirements. But if that's something that, you know,
Yeah,
make
just
you guys feel
think
more
that,
comfortable, I don't think there's going to be any opposition.
my personal perspective would be that, the evergreens will stay, it'll block it year round, right? Versus some of the trees that lose their leaves in the autumn.
Sure.
And then in the back of the property, I'm trying to visualize what that's gonna look like. Where all the landscaping is, I know you're taking a lot of the trees out and having to probably do some replanting there. How, is it trying to get a visual of what it's gonna look like for 94? I'm having a hard time doing that.
So
Oh.
I'd say, um, if you have a copy of the plans,
Have mine sitting up there, right?
okay, well, and I'll describe it first and I'll come bring it to you if that's okay. So I think what we added to this plan set to try to help address that and help you guys visualize it is on our removal plan. You know, you're not seeing all of the proposed elements of the project. You're seeing the existing conditions and what we're going to be removing. So we added a hatch to that to show how much of that brush would be impacted. So to kind of visualize that, because we also have the tree line in the expressway right of way, the south tree line that's
Mhm.
south of our property. So you can kind of get the scale for it, and without busting out a scale right now, it looks like there's probably 60 to 70 feet of vegetation buffer that we're still leaving in place.
And that vegetation buffer is, there's not any evergreens in that, I don't believe, is there?
So, not every single tree would have been identified in the survey, only the ones that were, of a
Mhm.
certain size, diameter and above. So, I mean, you've all seen the aerials. You can see how kind of dense that is when it gets, when everything's in full foliage and everything. But
Right.
so when you look at the plan, I can't tell you exactly how many trees, because there's going to be a lot in there that are, within that like 4 to 6 diameter and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm thinking more what it's gonna look like in the winter months, when all the leaves are down.
We're
and-
approaching right now.
Right.
Every time I drive by, I'm looking at it, trying to figure out what it's gonna look like.
Right.
I don't really know how we can do this here. I mean, evergreens along the west side, I got no issue,
Right.
unless he tells me I can't, but,
Is it possible to say a year after construction, we're done, you got a chance to look at it? So, if we pop some more evergreens in here, we can block this from the freeway. Is that something you'd be willing to do?
I was gonna say, I don't know how we do this, but
Right.
yes, if we could do it and see if we agree.
Okay.
Oh, I'm certainly willing to add to it. You guys are
Okay.
gonna be my neighbors. I gotta keep you happy a little bit.
Yeah.
Question, so there's however, like 24 trees are there and a number of them are going to be taken out. My question is, is a piece of property that has not had anything done to it. Ever. So I am a plant person. It's that everything growing there is an noxious invasive. Buckthorn, autumn olive, and box elder. Not all of those together. And because there's a wooded area next to my house that's totally neglected, and that's what it's full of. But when I don't know what your selection criteria was for the trees to take down, but if somebody uses buckthorn, take that thing down.
Yeah, really all that we've identified for removal is anything that's just can't stay because we're grading in that area, and everything we tried to leave as much as we can.
But if you wanna come out, we can cut some down. I wouldn't know a box elder from a maple.
I'll show you.
Okay. Any other questions on the landscaping? All right, let's kind of go through the standards of review. So Scott, just help me through with this. I'm going to look at condition 1, correct? Right place to start.
What do you want to look at?
We're just looking at going through the standards review. I think that condition 1 is where we want to start.
So the standards of review start, I did not number the pages. One,
I think it's maybe the third.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 7th page it says site plan review standards at the bottom.
Yep.
That's where it starts the preliminary site plan review standards. And then the next, then it talks about, I don't know, let's see how many there are. There's 10 standards for preliminary site plan review. And then there's final site plan review standards, which there are, I believe, 12 of those standards. So I don't know if you're gonna talk about each one of them or if you just want to,
Could I suggest, so I think in your report, you pretty much say and agree that everything is in compliance with those standards. I think the only one that I noticed was the sign.
well, yeah, I just, with the conditions of approval, my suggested approval motion is with the conditions of approval, the proposal would meet the requirements of.
Right. Yeah, all
of
I'm
the
saying is I think
So,
that's the only
Yeah.
standard of review that you noted any kind of modification or suggested modification.
Well, yeah, the standards of review, that require the EC3 regulations would be any of the ones that talk about the environmental. So it's not, with all 6 conditions, then it meets all 22 of those standards that are in place is what my report actually states.
So maybe the more effective thing to do is just to walk through the conditions and just talk about those and then move on. Does that sound reasonable to everyone? Okay, so the condition 1, the proposed lighting shall be only on during normal business hours. Operation security lighting may be on motion sensors for after hour use. I don't see anything with that.
And that was a condition of the special use permit that just
Correct.
carries over.
Yep.
The reason that carried over is because it wasn't noted on the lighting plan, so I just carried it over. The entire
All
condition.
right. Suggesting condition number 2, all federal, state, and local reviews and approvals will be required for this project prior to issuance of a building permit, including not limited to the Washington County Road Commission, Washington County Environmental Health Department, Township Engineering Consultant, Chelsea Area Fire Authority, and Chelsea Area Construction Agency. And I'd like to put in here the letters dated November 19th, 2024 from EC3 and the letter from Midwest Engineering dated November 14th, 2024. Adjusting condition number 3, the best practice suggested in the May 15th through 24 EC3 environmental evaluation of proposed tow yard letter exhibit D shall be implemented as part of this project. Store damaged vehicles pavement with curbing. Establish a time limit for the storage of vehicles. Do we want to put a time frame on that?
Yeah, you probably want to talk to, the applicant had brought that up as a concern, so probably you want to talk through that with the applicant on a maximum time frame. So it sounds like he has them that stay out there a little bit longer than 30 days. So,
30 days in the hole?
I don't recall seeing that, so I'm kind of,
that's not anywhere. That was just my suggestion, was
Okay.
30 days. What I would ask probably on this one is if somebody doesn't come and pick up their car, when will you get rid of it? Because what we don't want is a junkyard for cars to appear. So if we see a car out there for 2 years, we want to come out there and make you get rid of it. Yeah.
I'm good with that. There's criteria that fortunately my wife and someone else takes care of on something that does get abandoned. There's some time frames. It's,
Have it for probably about 45 to 50 days before we can finalize and auction it off.
it's got to be, I think after 7 days, we notify SOS or the police, which notifies SOS. So now it's abandoned. I think they gotta send out letters to the last registered owner, so it's 20 days. 20? Till we can post an ad for auction. The auction has to be not sooner than 7, not more than 14, I think. To give the people time to, debate whether the car is abandoned or not, then we can hold the auction at leaves. So I think I probably talked.
So some of these cars are severely damaged, right?
What's that?
Assuming most of these cars are severely damaged, do they really actually go to an auction for?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or you see them on the freeway with the license plate removed. It's a good indicator we're gonna get it.
For sure. I pick them up within a couple days. They don't want to pay storage.
Hmm.
Would 45 days cover your timeline most of the time?
I say, yes, I believe so. Going from memory, I think that either 23 or 24 timeframe, it was 41 days or something was the longest, so. We're gonna have to, I'd be okay to do something different when we can tell the police that, it's in the contract, we can tell them. You need to do something with it. I mean, if it's gonna
Move
be
them to a different yard.
You say they got the police?
take it over to
They
Lyman's.
what?
So like trial, closed.
And I don't know. We've had them a few months. Can't say I know a year. Not to say it hasn't happened in the world.
You can always haul it to Manchester if you have to, right?
Oh,
And bring it back and forth?
All right, 45 days.
I think I can live with that and make it happen.
All right. So let's add that in. It's a 45-day time limit. Prohibit vehicle repairs on site, prohibit fuel storage and underground storage tanks. Question for you, when vehicles come in, they say have a damaged fuel tank, how do you address that?
Typically, if they're leaking, they've leaked out by that point. We have pumped off a semis, about the only thing that I can say that has went into Oregon or will come pick up. We'll have them pump it off and take it away at the site. I haven't had them on scene.
Oh, they'll come out on site and pump it?
Yeah, lots of times. If they're leaking, yes, we have them come out and take care of it.
Okay,
They're insured, bonded. They can deal with it.
okay. Number 5, continue participation in the pollution prevention program through the Washington County Environmental Health Division. And that the following 2 suggested additions be made to the pollution prevention plan, PPP Exhibit D. First attached should include specification or a product sheet for the type of diaper that they intend to use. The diaper shall be either the ultra spill diaper or the truck diaper, gray universal, as this is the one that contains antifreeze and other non-petroleum chemical products, which will meet the requirement in the PPP area and are adequate for the intended use. Got here, it says the Second Amendment should include an example of the page with the logbook that they will be used to verify the documents.
They actually did submit a log
I see that.
that's in our thing tonight, so.
Yep, and we've got the biannual report is in there already. I think we're good on that one.
We'll add that condition that the biannual report include a summary of the,
Logbook.
Okay.
I wrote it down somewhere, what you said originally. I wrote down. Submit all environmental review at the 2-year annual report to the township board at the same time the biannual review for the safety measures.
Okay. Someone to skim through the final site plan, page here. I think one thing we're gonna want to put into it also is, landscaping review, in year 2. After completion
Who do
of
you-
construction.
Do you want them to come back to the planning committee?
No, just to the township.
The township?
Yeah, just to ensure that the visibility off 94 is taken care of. Okay, so suggested condition number 5, prior to issuing of a permit, the wall sign should be redesigned to be a maximum of 60 square feet.
You guys all right with that? Yeah, I think it was at 70 feet and it went over the allowed size allowed based on the width of the building.
That's on the face of the building. Is 10 square foot too much?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Okay,
I can do that. Our architect is also here for support or something.
condition number 6, if in the future a permit is requested for a freestanding sign, it shall be no larger than the average freestanding signs in the surrounding industrial area. It shall be no taller than the average freestanding sign in the surrounding area, and if illuminated, it shall have exterior illumination.
So the reason I have stated that one is because your code is very, there's a reason that we want plans during site plan review for signage. Your code is very loose. I think you allow an 80 square foot freestanding sign, which is quite a large sign. And we would just want it to match the other signage in the area. However, the reason I did exterior illumination is because I feel offended every time I drive by the steel electric sign, just because it's so bright. Interior illumination emits light, exterior illumination illuminates the sign. So the area is, you're working on a dark skies ordinance. The area is pretty dark at night, except for the VTS site, which seems to be your only area in this township that actually illuminates the night skies. If you look at your dark skies lighting plans that were submitted by U of M to you guys, that's the only site in this area that has lighting that is obtrusive. So I would suggest,
We've talked about the landscaper at 52.
oh yeah, there's the landscaper. I see it now. I think when they did the studies, so the studies were done between 2019 and 2021. That guy probably wasn't there, but he's pretty bad also.
Brought that up, that I don't like it, so I don't want.
And I think probably phase 3 of the or phase 2 of the mobile home park might have problems too with the dark skies if they do another plan for us showing the lighting. Because their lights are also not shielded on their street lighting. So, but the lights that are proposed elsewhere on Kern's property currently are all shielded and directed directly to the ground. They're actually, they're like, if you've ever seen LED light from Home Depot that somebody puts on their front door and how it directs the light to the ground compared to old lighting, how it's sort of shedded everywhere. They're much more directional lighting proposed. If you look at their lighting, they have a light study in their plan. They have contain the light pretty well with their existing lights, so.
If you remember, we had a citizen stand up and the first time ever speak good of the development. That was awesome.
Yeah, they've come a long way with lighting, I think. So we don't have as many of the problems as we used to unless you want those types of problems and you're trying to illuminate huge areas. I'm not sure why some of the other businesses have chose to illuminate the way they have. So, it might be a security thing. I don't know why it is that way, but the exterior lighting is so that we don't get that glow from this, if they do in the future want some sort of freestanding sign, and they come back, because this is the only time that you would go through site plan review for a signage. At other times, they just have to meet the code. So by putting a condition in there, you allow us to look at the sign now, even though they're not proposing one for when they come back and want a freestanding sign. Or if they come back and want a freestanding sign.
Okay, I think we've covered all the conditions so far, correct? I'm just gonna walk through the review standards for the final site plan. Reviewing a final site plan, the planning commission shall determine whether the plan meets the following preliminary standards. As for combined and final site plan, these documents are the same and therefore this standard is met. Plan meets all applicable standards in sections 30-221, section regarding properties in the recreation conservation district and do not apply. Plan meets specifications of the towns for fire and police protection, water supply, sewage disposal or treatment, storm drainage and other public facilities and services. It has been approved by the township fire chief and township engineer. Fire department has reviewed the plan, received comments, exhibit D prior to issuing a zoning permit. The township utilities department will need to sign off on the project. Plans of the township engineer reviewed the project and does not have concerns.
Can I suggest that you might maybe instead of just reading the staff report, you could just direct people to say, do you have any concerns with the preliminary standards 1 through 10? If so, what standard? And then let's talk about that standard. Or do you agree that they're met? Because I think just reading, I mean, I wrote the staff report
Right.
so that you guys can read it outside of the meeting. So I think you've all read it. So I think it would be a better use of your time if you just go, the preliminary have 1 through 10. Does anybody have any concerns with those? If not, let's move on to the final. If not, then try to make a motion that works. But if you do have concerns, then talk about that specific standard and then address that specific thing. It just seems like reading the standards in the report are not a great use. So do you want me to direct?
No, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
All right, you can direct.
No, that's a good suggestion. I like that. So for the preliminary site plan reviews, is there any questions from anyone? Clifford, you okay with it? Okay. I'm gonna go on to the final site plan review standards. And so final 1-3, this is the plan meets specification for the township fire, sewer, water supply, sewage and treatment, storm drainage. You know, I'm still not satisfied with not concreting the entire structure. So that's, you know, I want to make that clear to the rest of you that, you know, I'm personally opposed to that or not doing that. I think it's the smart investment to protect all of our tax dollars investments into the water tower. Is there anything else on 1 to 3 that anyone else would like to comment on? Items 4 through 6. Tom, anything from your perspective? Okay. And then item number 7, the street lighting. I think we've covered all that. All right. Now I guess we're going to move on to what a motion would look like. So from a legal perspective, I got to read that whole thing.
I would read the motion. You don't have to read all of the conditions. You can say conditions 1 through 6 as shown in the staff report, and then reiterate your 2 conditions, that the additional conditions that we're adding in, or 3 conditions, depending on how you guys are going to go about your motion. If you are approving, if you're denying, I don't have denial standards written. So the way that you would work the denial is you would read this, and then you would say which standard you believe it doesn't meet, and then why it doesn't meet that standard. So that we could have that for when we prepare the denial
Okay.
certificate.
Am I all right to ask a question? Just in regard to the paving and understanding, is there a motion to include that as a condition?
Motion hasn't been made yet, so we don't know if there is or not, and we don't know if 4 planning commissioners would go one way or the other until they make the motion. So what would happen next is the planning commission is going to make a motion. Either, they could add whatever conditions in there that they believe are appropriate to meet the standards. And then they'll have to have a vote on that. If the vote doesn't get 4 votes, then they could make another motion with a different set of conditions. If that doesn't get 4 votes, then your project could just either be killed because they didn't make a motion, or they would have to make a denial motion. And in that denial motion, they would have to say why they're denying the project, what standard it doesn't meet, and why it doesn't meet that standard. And then if that doesn't get 4 votes,
Is there a scenario that there's a motion to add something as a condition and they vote on that? So
yeah,
let's say,
yes, so their motion
motion.
is going to include conditions. I imagine, I'm not them, so I can't guarantee what motion they're going to make. More than likely, they're going to make a motion to approve with the 6 conditions that were in the staff report, and then some additional conditions. The conditions that I heard them talk about tonight were adding the environmental review into the 2-year safety biannual review. There was one to add that staff work with the applicant after 2 years to verify that the screening along I-94 was still adequate to screen the project from the highway. And then the third, which is up in the air, I don't know if they're going to make a motion with it or without it. But the third one was to either pave or not pave the back area. So either leave it without a third motion or have a third motion to pave. During their discussion of that, there were 3 of them that were clearly in favor of not paving it. But we didn't hear from every single one, so I don't know which way they're going to go on those.
does the 30 to 45 days require a condition, or is that just amending?
Yeah, that would amend that. So I do have some amendments that they proposed as they were going through it. They proposed to amend the condition number 2 to include the letters, just to have see the letters of November 24th from ECS and November 14th from Midwest Consulting. It's, again, that doesn't really have to be in there, but they're just putting it in there so that in the future, if somebody's looking at this motion, they can then track those 2 letters down. And then the number 3 would have been amended for establishing a time limit on storage vehicles. This limit should be 45 days maximum. So they amended that from 30 days to 45 days. That was during their discussion. I would imagine that in their motion, that is how they are going to propose it. But again, they now need to make a motion. They can make a motion, have it seconded, and then discuss the motion. When they discuss the motion, they might want to amend that motion. Then they have to make a motion to amend the motion that was, and have a second on that. And then they can amend that motion, and then they can take a vote. So there's multiple ways that this can go, but they're in the middle of the process now, and let's see how they move forward.
All right, let me start in on this. Okay. So got the planning commission motion to approve the combined preliminary and final site plan review, PFS PA-24-001 to allow improvements to the property at 18651 West Old US, should say 12, for future towing business and an impound yard. This project includes, but is not limited to 4,230 square foot, 1.5 story building, 7 parking places, 7 customer parking spaces, a secured storage yard with 46 parking spaces, signage, lighting, and landscaping. Because I discussed and presented at tonight's planning commission meeting, and as presented in the planning commission staff reports, the proposed project with the following conditions shall be: meet the standards of preliminary site plan review, section 30-76C, 110, and final site plan review, section 3078C, 1-12. So the conditions of approval, there's 1 to 6. We think we've been through these a number of times. I want to add in the letters from ECS Environmental dated November 19th, 2024. The letters from Midwestern Consulting dated November 14th, 2024. I'd like to add another motion for a 2-year review of the landscaping along I-94 by township staff, ensure that there's adequate blockage, visibility. The other condition is the biannual review requirements from the Washtenaw County Department of Participation with the PPE program with the Washtenaw County Department of Environmental Health to be presented to the township board. And the second part of the motion is to change from 30 days to 45 days. A vehicle can stay on a lot. You guys got all that?
Your ad number. 7th condition. Would be 2-year. So you're adding,
It's just the environmental review
what is
process.
under their condition?
It
Is
was,
that under condition 3?
yeah. Suggested best practices. No, I'm sorry, it's right there. It's number 3, yeah. Scott, did I miss
So
it?
what's your question, Matt? I can maybe answer it for you.
Stick with 6 conditions that I had.
Yes, he's adding, to his motion, he added condition 7 and condition 8. Condition 7 would be that the township and the applicant shall review the landscaping after 2 years to verify that there's adequate screening from I-94. Number 7 would be to add the environmental review by whatever the Washtenaw County PPE plan to the 2-year biannual review of the safety techniques that was on the special use permit. So those were the 2 additional conditions of approval that he added. He also added to number 2 of the 6 conditions that it says, see the letters from ECS Environmental, November 24th, 2024, and the letter from Midwest Consulting dated November 14th, 2024. And then he amended item 3 condition of approval number 3.2 to say, establish a time limit for storage vehicles. This limit should be 45 days maximum, not 30 days maximum. So that was all he amended currently. So those two additional and then the amendments to the 6.
Okay.
We have a.
And then the last one is, I want to add the paving of the entire lot to the proposed plan.
Okay, so the third one he added was the paving. If he doesn't get a second, then that would just die and you could make another motion. If he does get a second, you can then talk about the motion and you could have an amendment to that motion if you decide to amend that motion and have a second to that amendment. But right now we have a motion on the table. You would need a second to talk about it. If it doesn't get seconded, it dies and you just make another motion.
Motion second by Tom.
Point of order. Chairman cannot make a motion. You can entertain a motion.
I don't know.
These are conditions.
Sorry, yeah, Mike, don't make that last motion.
It's not,
See how it goes.
you can amend it.
No, let's just let it go as it's wrote. And the vote will come out one way or the other. And then if it doesn't pass, we'll have to adjust it. If it does pass, it is what it is.
Hmm.
Just let it go as it is right now. There's no sense-
So we already had a motion and a second. You could either amend that motion or you could act, although we have a point of order that says that Matt doesn't believe that the chair can make a motion. So I'm not sure if that's the case or not. You know, I don't.
Your motion, but he's reading it.
We're making.
With,
Not my motion.
with
condition-
with some
with
other
conditions,
changes.
I don't make motions.
Which are amendments.
Correct.
To the motion.
I don't know the Roberts rules of law to say whether I can or can't.
I withdraw my second.
You want to just, withdraw your second and then let that die and then somebody else make the motion so that we can just move forward? How about, do you still want items 7 and 8 in there, which are the, that the 2-year review include the environmental and that the, township and the applicant after 2 years look at the landscaping? Yes, so you want those two. You want the amendment to item 3-2 to say 45 days instead of 30 days. And you want the letters to be added into item 2, but no paving. Yeah, so that's the motion that Tom has put on the table now. Do we have a second to that motion? Do you have any discussion on that? Now, Mike would usually then ask for
So-
discussion.
Yeah, is there,
Point of order,
no,
just,
we've already,
what happened to the first motion? Because Mike, you made a motion,
withdrew his second.
so you withdrew it, okay.
so we have a motion, that's been seconded by Sandy. Leah, let's do I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Tom?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chair votes no.
Yes.
Doesn't include, this motion doesn't include the cement, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 4-2. Okay. Anything else on that? Okay, the next one is comments, concerns of the planning commission members.
Thank you all.
So I can breathe again? Thank you.
Yeah, what's going on out there?
I'm just asking, the vision and where we are today is two different things.
Yeah, I think they've gone strictly to an event business, what I read on their website. Is that what you read too, Scott? I take it?
I don't even know if they're currently open. Are they currently, because I heard that their business closed. So,
Strictly an event.
so it just has the wedding barn that's out there now?
Yeah,
Next Wednesday, there's gonna be music in the bargain.
yeah.
Gonna be back open as a
Yeah, I think,
restaurant.
Wednesday. Then.
Yeah, it's bar night, right,
Right,
before
yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
Yeah, I looked at their calendar, it showed that, and I think they had the buck pole and the bar night.
It's probably
Calendar.
closer to the intent now than it was when it was running. So, because they're probably closer to doing more agriculture, 50-50 agricultural to restaurant use than when it was open. Because when it was open, there was no, I mean, how would they getting the 50% agricultural use out of that property? Yeah,
I'm just amazed that it hasn't brought it back to something else. That someone else is gonna have, someone's paying tax on it. That's a good point. When it initially started out from the park.
yeah. So what I would do is you have your planning commission person that is on the township board. You could ask them to bring that to the township board for review of their special use permit. So I would suggest that, and then they would get their attorney involved and then go out. What you're asking for is them to shut down the business,
I think it's.
but the direction would be that it has to meet what it was approved at, and we're not believing that it is doing what it was approved for. So, yeah.
And maybe for the first 6 to 9 months.
Yeah. And then dealing with if they're not meeting the requirements of the code, then we would have to move forward with either changing those requirements, or they would have to disband that use or add more agricultural uses to the property. Or I think I remember when they first opened, they actually had agricultural events out there. Like you
Oh,
could
they
go
do?
out there and do things, because my sister was in the local foods business and they would go out there and do that kind of stuff at that place. And now it seems to be just a bar and an event space. I think there's an event barn back there somewhere. Yeah. You would have the township board direct me and Rob Thal to go through all their approvals, because you guys have multiple approvals of this project from 2014 through 2018 that are very hard to track. So it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of cost, because you are going to have your attorney involved. So I'm not going to go through all that paperwork and try to figure out how you approved this project.
In pieces.
And then be the one responsible. Because right now I can look at it and say they're not meeting the code requirements. I can tell you that right now, that they're not doing any farming out there from what I can see. They have maybe some sheep at some point that were out there, but that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the other question, are they actually gonna go belly up, right? That's the other.
Like the first year, see what the first year.
I don't imagine that business has been making money, so somebody is supporting that business.
I mean, the fixed cost is just keeping the lights on out there.
Yeah.
It's gotta be, right, to some degree. So,
So yes, I would direct your person that's on, because the board is going to have to say, yes, we should move forward with this, and here's the money that we have in place to go forward with it.
6 months in July or something and reevaluate it before we. I don't know.
This is- They could do more farming in 6 months when it's warmer, but
Or they could have that vision of it, other than someone bringing their own sheep in, somebody else's sheep in, and pasturing them there.
I mean, don't they typically come in January, February anyway about the fireworks? That might be a good opportunity to talk to them.
I mean, I think this has been brought up every time they came in the last 3 years. So if you can hear my frustration, it seems like you guys waited for me to start here after 12 years of this project going on to enforce the code.
Hmm.
But I think if you want to move forward with it, the way to move forward with it is get an initiative from the township board, especially because it's a new board, to move forward with it. It will either be shutting down the business or making them revamp the business so that there is some sort of farming that is going on with it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if it goes out of business, then what are you gonna do with it then, right?
Well,
So another dilemma. But Scott, does Beckett and Radar come back on after our other conversation?
so for the master plan review, they have, they have submitted it. I had a whole bunch of comments based on our comments,
Right.
and they just resubmitted it. So I had told them that I would review it and then send it to our subcommittee
Okay.
to take a look at prior to the next step.
Okay.
So yeah, just to see that it met what we thought it was going to meet from the subcommittee meeting that we had.
Okay.
And then we can move forward from there.
Okay. And then I think other people probably read the news that the city of Chelsea is looking at annexing parts of the township. And hopefully just everyone's aware of what's going on there.
The study.
Yeah, the 100.
study.
Well, they've spent $100,000 on a study. It's probably quite a bit more.
So, yeah, so there's rumors that they're annexing. Yeah, so there was nothing in a report that says they're asking to annex, but the rumors are based on them wanting to do a study of if there is water available for these properties in the surrounding communities. So that's what you're talking about, right, Mike?
No, it was what I read in the Sun Times and the feedback in regards to the appropriated money they've got for their plan.
That's
And part
to
of it
do-
is looking
that's
at
to do
annexing.
a study on the water, though. It's not to do a study on the annexation.
I believe I interpreted it differently. It was between annexation of Sullivan and Lyman Township properties into the city of Chelsea. Anyways, you can go back and read it, but I don't know. Is that how you took it, Patrick? You haven't read it yet. Right, absolutely. I just want to make sure everyone's staying on top of this one. 2-3 weeks ago, there's been a couple of articles come up on it. So
I saw the report from Chelsea because somebody had forwarded it to me, but it didn't say they were looking to annex, but I would imagine if they're doing a review of if there's available water, that could mean that they're going to annex or they're looking to annex the properties. So what I have suggested to Amanda, who's your new supervisor, is that she make sure she's in a good place just in case the city does want to annex the properties in the future. So there were two things that came out. One was this money that they got to do this study. And the other was in their master plan, because they're updating their master plan. In their master plan review, they ask the citizens to look at the surrounding zoning of the surrounding neighboring properties. And they had asked a question like, do you think these zoned areas or future land use designations of the surrounding communities are appropriate?
Hmm.
So those were the two things that I saw that, could be interpreted as the city looking at future annexations if possible.
Yeah, and the other is as far as our master plan update, can you check with Becker and Radar and see how appropriate it is to put something in there that it's not the intention of the township to be providing any to what's the right word, to have their property annexed by the city of Chelsea. I'd be curious if we could, that type of language.
If you want a educational training on annexations, we could again direct Sandy to talk to the township board about because there is very clear state law on how annexations work and what townships can do to make themselves safer from annexations. I'm not an expert on that, but I have read many and I've gone to trainings on annexations. But you don't, there's nothing in your master plan that talks about potential annexations of properties. So the way annexations work is cities can annex from townships if the township hasn't provided the ability for that property to be developed somehow. That's if you're a charter township versus a regular township, you're a little bit more safe from annexations also. So, but I think what you're looking for, Mike, is a little bit of an education on how annexations work and how the township can be more prepared. And I think Amanda is probably looking into that because she does seem to be concerned and she is meeting with attorneys, and maybe she can get one of the attorneys to come to a township board meeting, and then everybody can go and figure out how these annexations work and see how we can protect ourselves.
So something in
things.
our master plan update was what you're suggesting is
Yeah.
not appropriate.
Yes. I've never seen any talk about annexations put into a master plan.
Good, Patrick.
I did read a very good article when the Michigan sets out the entire process and which direction the process can go based on different.
Yep.
I think that's something that everybody should be.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And there are also limits on what you can do to resist. But, I think some of the rumors are clearing up mostly because of the lack of knowledge. There's the fear start up. The fear is that they're just gonna gobble up the whole township. That's a little bit overblown, and sometimes you need to know what the actual rules are.
No, we got $100,000 to do a study, so something tells me there's smoke, there's fire, right? So. What's that?
You gotta generate money someplace.
Right.
You gotta have more building or something.
All right.
It's about 5 pages long. And it just lays out plainly what the rules are, covers annexation and 425 agreements, and some other things like that.
If you have that article, can you forward it?
Yeah, if you could send it to me too, I'd be interested in it, Patrick. I think I still
We can get that for you. I've read that article. And there's MTA. I mean, there's a lot of article. MSU has a Schindler's List on annexations. So there's a lot of information out there if you are interested, but I can give you the MML document. It's a summary of annexation and 425 agreements, which sort of summarizes it into like more layman's terms on how to do it. It is very litigious. I mean, you definitely have to get attorneys all involved in it, so. But I think Amanda, again, is working with an attorney on this item itself, just to set the township up so that they are in the best place possible if anybody in the future tries to go through an annexation.
Okay, let's see if there's anything else.
I know last meeting we talked about the renewable energy ordinance. Any kind of updates after that? Went back to the board?
Yeah, so I don't know where we are right now in this. Are we under comments from planning commission members?
Yeah.
All right, because we have the discussion of the 2025 minutes also, or meetings also. Yeah, so you will have a December 19th meeting. Because there is a home occupation, which under your code requires a special use permit, which all special use permits in the state of Michigan require site plan review. So there is a special use permit for a home occupation for fire transfer of firearms on a property. And then that will have to have a public hearing. And then at that same meeting, I hope to bring you the initial draft of the renewable energy regulations. So what I've been working on is taking what Rebecca had created. That was the person that was here before. And there's some manipulation to put it into sections that are more appropriate under your existing code, and then also altering it a little bit, but you'll get an initial draft hopefully at the December 19th meeting. You can review it, make comments, and then if you are okay with it, then what you would do is you would say, yes, we're okay. Here's some suggested changes that you make. We're okay having a public hearing at the next meeting. You can notice this for a public hearing, and then you would have a public hearing on the renewable energy regulations, and that would be when the notice would go into the paper and it would go to the public. So I have been working on that for the December 19th meeting. I'm hoping I have time to get it done for that meeting.
Yeah.
But you'll have that meeting regardless, because the home occupation will be, which requires special use permit and preliminary and final site plan review will be on that meeting.
Interesting. I won't be here the 19th. It's my wife's birthday. So.
Hopefully we have at least 5. So.
And then I guess for the dates for 2025.
Oh yeah, the dates for 2025. This is the third Thursday of the month, and I just put them all down there for you guys to see if you have any conflicts that you know now,
No.
would like to change them, or if you'd like to change the date to something else.
No, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, they work fine for me.
All right, I'll let them know. I think in this township, the township board looks at them also. There's not a requirement that they be approved by the township board, but they might be. I don't know how they work here. So, the office manager person has been asking me to bring these to you so that they can put them on the township board meeting. So,
Can you find out if I'm allowed to make a motion or not? I don't disagree.
yeah,
with Matt.
I'll check that out.
I've got a copy of Robert's rules on my desk. I'll look it up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can't create a motion. I've never seen that done before.
The chairman cannot. You can entertain a motion. Meaning someone else, you're entertaining a motion.
We'll look it up and then give you the legal
right.
rules.
Yeah, I'll grab Robert's rules and if I'll scan the relevant section email to you.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
I just find that baffling. You make a motion.
No, you can't. That chairman.
Well, let's not
Yeah.
discuss it
No,
anymore tonight. We can actually find the rules and talk about it at that point.
Sure.
Second.
Motion approved, second. Yeah. Meetings is over.
Okay, sounds good.
But, yeah, the answer to the. I have to do. So you, so you.
Yeah.
Repeat the motion. Repeat the motion. Say aye. It says aye, and then hold the same.
Yeah.
You also have to say opposed, same sign. It doesn't matter. Everyone said yes or no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you still have to say opposed, same sign.
Opposed, same sign.